All right, so moving on from the last meet, we discussed on how in the first part of the drive, the body is there to hold the connection between your hands and your feet. All right, it's not there to open, it's there literally to hold onto what you can produce with your legs. Okay, once we move further, once we have then picked up the boat with the legs, and we have started to suspend, there comes a point where it's difficult to keep connection with your legs only, and that's where the body comes in. The body swing can almost be thought as a multiplier for your legs. Okay, I like to think of it in this way. Explain to the athlete that you have two parts or two sections below your hips and above your hips. In the first part of the drive, your body is obviously holding, it's doing something, but the force generated is coming from your hips and below your legs, in other words. Okay, so your legs are creating a force and they are creating movement on the seat. As the boat speeds up, obviously it is more difficult to keep that connection we've talked about so much, and that's where the body comes in. So the body is there to lever against the legs. All right, so the top system, i.e. body above the hips, lever against the bottom system, i.e. the legs. All right, so push, and then as you start to need more velocity, your back will come on against your legs there. It's actually as simple as that. In the first lecture we talked about, in the first meet we talked about the finish position, so you can take this info and put it onto that first video, and you should have a good idea if you look at all of the meets sequentially as to the stroke cycle, and it might help to explain that to your athletes. But this part of the stroke here is extremely important because that lever is where you can generate a huge amount of speed and force. Okay, it is a very, very strong movement if you can get the athletes to coordinate the back moving against the legs. Otherwise what happens is you have your legs finish, then you have your body trying to come on. It is a coordinated movement, just the way swinging a golf club is a coordinated movement. Lifting a weight off the floor is a coordinated movement. It's about bringing your body, working them against your legs in actually a very coordinated way. It's not supposed to look what's the word I'm looking for? The movement shouldn't be jerky. Okay, it shouldn't be that you push your legs and then you suddenly see this hectic movement with the body. Nor should it be that the body is just slow, gradually moving on against the legs. You should see in the boat, you should see a dynamic movement where the body is connected against the legs and it's generating force. Okay, and then you can coordinate holding onto that pressure, and you develop a huge amount of speed, which then makes the finish a lot easier. If you don't have that movement sorted out within your stroke, you'll find that when the athlete is trying to get the handle through to the finish, the hands will slow down because it's too heavy. So you generate force, you start to develop speed in the stroke, okay, and then you give it the hips come on and they generate this dynamic acceleration, which makes it light for you to keep that handle velocity coming through. And your arms, in theory, don't need to be huge and, generate a massive amount of force. It's just holding on to the speed of the handle so that you can keep that acceleration and extract cleanly. Hi everyone, welcome to the final video, let's say, on the stroke cycle, the basics of the stroke cycle. I'm going to get straight to it. The reason I haven't gone with a meet is it's just a little bit easier to go through videos, and I've got some videos that I want to show you later on, and hopefully we can commentate on those. I'm going to go through a short slide presentation now, and hopefully you enjoy it. All right, so preceding this, we talked a lot about connection. I think that was the most important thing as we moved on to the drive, highlighting the two parts of the of putting force on the boat. That is muscular force, and then also organizing position so that you can suspend your body weight off the seat, hence thus using gravity to create more force on your spoon. Secondly, using the legs only to push off. In South Africa, we try not to open up. We try to push off just with the legs and hold with the body. So not opening up nor slipping. Okay, so in other words, holding on to the leg drive and really pushing off with the feet using the legs. And then as we moved later on into that leg drive, we talked about the importance of hanging off the handle or being relaxed. All right. Cool. So the focus points for today, number one, acceleration and holding the connection. Okay. The only way to hold connection is to accelerate. It's as simple as that. Number two, working the body off the legs. That is how we accelerate, and the timing of that. And then a short talk about just coordinated movement and flow, which we've already talked about a fair amount in the other presentations. And then the practical, and I'm going to try and share some videos on screen and try and do a little bit of analysis so that I can kind of talk you through some of the points that I have identified on those clips. All right, so first point, acceleration and holding connection. Okay, last time we talked about connection and what it is. Basically, your back is there to add value. It's there to add something so that you can accelerate off your seat. Okay, to hold, this isn't written very well, but to hold connection, the force needs to be great enough to keep accelerating. Okay, you could replace it with, you could replace the words as well. You could say to accelerate, the force needs to be great enough to keep connection. And that's important that you understand that. If you have a huge force early on and you are not able to keep your body moving fast enough behind the handle to generate a force on the spoon, it means that you've lost the boat and you're not accelerating it at all. If there's force on the spoon, the boat will be accelerating. All right, then working the body off the legs. A lot of coaches you'll hear talking about knee or calf thigh angle and body angle, which is the angle between your thigh and your chest, and basically working those two things against each other to lever. That is the important part of working the body off the legs. It's easy if you see the system as two parts. Number one, the leg drive, i.e. the knee, the knee angle or the calf thigh angle, and then the body represented by your handle, because remember you're hanging, it's like a piece of rope, but the body is the angle between your thigh and your chest. If the seat is moving well, i.e. you've pushed off well with your legs, then the body can give a lot of force through that lever. Okay. And this gives you your connection or continued acceleration. And if you cast your mind back to the last talk we did, I remember we said, how much force should you use? And the answer to that was as much as you can keep. And I think we've been through that enough. If you have a huge spike of force, that's great, but it's difficult to keep hold of it. Just as if you have a very soft and or too soft on the front end and you drive too softly, anyone can have good connection through the finish if the first half of the drive has been poor. So it's about balancing what you can and getting what you can from your body. All right. Then the last slide, just coordinated movements and flow. We have talked a little bit about this. To accelerate properly, there must be efficiency. And I think the next point here, to row fast, you need to execute 250 to 300 strokes. Okay, it might be a lot less for juniors, but that is your goal as a coach, is to teach athletes to row 200, 250 odd strokes well and execute them well. That is your task. Your task is not one stroke, the perfect stroke. All right. It's not a golf swing. You know, you don't hit the ball once. You don't have one stroke and then it's done. You have to make sure that the efficiency is there, so that you can row 2,000 meters fast. And this point is important. Like, I think a lot of coaches see one stroke in isolation, or alternatively, they focus specific parts of the stroke cycle. So if you're focusing on one stroke, we can become a little bit obsessed with distance per stroke. It's easy to get good distance per stroke at 18 strokes a minute if you're pulling very hard and rowing as long as you can. But does that type of rowing translate into efficient rowing at 35 to 40 strokes a minute? I've certainly made that mistake. You know, you look at the boat's speed, and obviously there'll be great ratio, and nice and quick through the work, and then lots of time on the recovery, and quick through the work, and lots of time on the recovery. But that ratio will change significantly as you go up in stroke rate, and one needs to make sure that the pattern of movement that you're rowing at 18 and 20 can still be translated into something at 35 or 40. The other thing is force, okay, especially peak force. Sometimes we focus so much on generating such a really high peak force, like a very late, hard, quick lever, to the detriment of the first part of the stroke, for example. Also, some coaches are just focused on really pulling hard and huge amounts of force. Obviously, force is extremely important in rowing, but if you are focused towards a specific, say, late force, late peak of your force, or maybe you are completely focused on guys jumping off the front, you can also get yourself into trouble where you're not able to sustain that connection. You sometimes find that you'll gravitate towards bursts or sprinting, alternatively rowing at a low stroke rate or pulling very hard. Now, obviously all of those things that I've spoken about can be used as exercises. You know, when kids are 14, 15 years old, when they learn how to connect to the water and really push the boat and then glide forward, there's no better feeling. And that I can remember that sticking with me when I was a kid. Finally, we realized that the boat actually can work for us in the recovery. And so the ratio must have been quite exaggerated at that point. So you do need to go through all these things, but just because you fast at 18 doesn't mean that you fast at race pace. Some coaches will focus heavily on stroke rate, forcing stroke rate, and to the detriment of the rowing. Either you lose pressure or force, or you lose stroke length because the guys are chasing. And then you can also fall into the trap of focusing specifically on one part of the stroke. And I think all coaches have their strengths, and all coaches are confident in certain aspects of the stroke more than others. And I think the important part here is that you should never have an erratic movement or a movement where it's forced. We need to try and get a smooth cycle going. I don't need to go into those examples. I think we've spoken enough about that previously. Now I'm going to go on to the videos. Hopefully they come up and we can have a discussion around that. So you can see from this video that there's a lot of good things happening there. The thing that I wanted to show you was perhaps a slightly two-piece stroke. So if you watch the stroke man, it's a late, he's attempting a late lever, but you can see by the time he brings the body on, his arms are already well into it. But it does look a little two-piece. So it looks like they push their legs and then they lever. It is good rowing, yes, but it looks like a 1 on the legs and then a 2 on the body. Okay, let me go to the next video. So this is Sarasota, 2017, I guess. Both of these boats have won a world championship. I think both of them might have won at that specific regatta, but I can't remember offhand. What do we notice? There's a woman's double on the catch. You can see the shoulders in front of the hips with not much of the legs to go. So they're hanging off it quite well. And then a coordinated movement of the back coming through. And then the arm draw. And they're rowing steady state, obviously. It doesn't look like they are like cranking the boat along. You can see there's a good connection. They're moving the boat past the blade. And you can imagine that movement that they're doing now being taken up to race pace quite easily. This woman's pair is obviously an exceptional boat. A lot of things that would disagree with what we've spoken about. Firstly, posture. Secondly, a slightly paused rhythm on the back end. But at the end of the day, what I think really works well in this boat is they get a fantastic amount of force on the spoon early, and they hold onto that connection incredibly well. It's an exceptionally good boat. Here's another video. This is French pair back in 2011, the year before London. And you can see how smoothly this boat is moving and how it's running on the recovery. I'd say the thing I like most about this clip is how the strokeman lands the blade. If you want to watch that, we'll pause it. It's approaching full length, and it's in. You can now hang off it. There's a vertical shin, and you can push. And he does. He pushes. He pushes. Starts to lever quite late, and then holds onto it. Tracked cleanly. Nice rowing. This is another video of a light men's double a couple of years back. The reason I like this video is that I'll start it from the beginning. It starts with steady state rowing and then moves on to a build. So it's quite, for me, it's quite neat and tidy. However, I think it takes too long for them to get pressure on the spoon at steady state rowing. And because it takes too long to get pressure on the spoon on the low end, when the speed comes up, they struggle just as much. But the sequencing and the general picture is probably something that is good to watch. Then this one is a good example of, again, of front end. This is Tabello a couple of years back. But you can see how he's trying to open up at the catch and hold his position. So he's not falling over or through his knees. He's trying to open up the catch and hold his chest up. Nice and tall, place, push off. Yeah, just wanted to say thank you for everyone that's tuned in to these talks. Hopefully you got a little bit out of those videos. I think it would have been very difficult to analyze videos live in a class or in a meet with you guys. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. And the intention, we might have a little break now, but the intention is to go on to some talks about things like rhythm, possibly some training, and other topics. Feel free to message me or email me questions, and hopefully we'll see you guys on the water soon. All the best. Have a great weekend.